Hello, fellow knitting friends. This is Evelyn of The Modern Needle. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as The Modern Needle, and I am ready to release part 2 of the sock knit along. I do have to apologize. I released the video actually yesterday. However, yesterday I had a million interruptions. I knitted the sock 5 or 6 times and repaired and edited and repaired and edited, and by the time I released the final version, I only released the introduction. So some days you should just leave it, and I should have just left it. So apologies for that. Today, this video is the whole video from the introduction right over to both sock heels. What I also included in the video is I had to, like I said, I had to knit the toe so many times that one of the times that I ripped it back, I thought, oh, maybe this is a good time to include how I actually do that. So I included that little tiny clip, it's a minute or something, before I actually get into the heels, just in case you ever need to rip anything back, or you have to rip the heel back, or a heel is worn out. You can of course use that same technique on the bottom and on the top of the heel, and then just knit an afterthought heel and Kitchener the ends together. Or if you need to add length to a sweater or anything, or if it's too long and you need to go back and make it shorter, or you don't like how whatever turned out, it doesn't matter, any knitting pattern you can rip back that way. So it'll be intro, then how to fix the heel if you need to fix it, then the yarn over heel, and then the short row twin stitch or shadow stitch heel. And before I get into that, I found a nifty deal on Amazon for a knitting sock set, which never ever goes on sale. This is the Chow-Gu 6-inch sock set. It was still on sale this morning when I checked, and it is the 30th of May today, so it's still on. It's $50 for the set. You get 6 sets of 6-inch needles from 2.0 to 3.25, which is a fantastic deal. So I thought I'll pass that along. Kind of a knitter helping a knitter, and it is in Canada. I don't know about other countries. And let's see. So back to knitting socks. If you want to see how the socks are done, stay tuned and it will come up in 2 seconds. Thank you. So this is my second video shoot, and I had already finished the whole heel, but I forgot to do something. So I decided that I'm going to re-record this segment, but I did want to show you something. I already pulled out the needles and I picked up my front stitches here. However, I thought just in case somebody else needs to be doing this, I pulled out my needles and I'm just going, I have a way smaller needle. This is a 4mm, this is a 2.25. I'm going to pick up the stitches here, just the right leg on each one of them, and I can see that I'm going into the V or into the smiles, and I'm picking up the right leg of the smiles. So my stitch is already mounted in the correct formation. So I thought I'm just going to show you this in case anyone will have to rip it back, and this is good for any ripping back that you will ever have to do. It doesn't matter on what project. I can even count my stitches: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, which is what I need to have. I can just rip this out and I'll be right back. I'll do that off camera. I just wanted to show you this and I'll be right back. So through the wonders of video editing, my needles are back on, my stitches are back on one needle here. I have my working needle, which is the 4mm right here. If you had a smaller needle in your left, which is the holding needle, you can either now change it to a 4mm or do what I do. I just use a double pointed needle that's also a 4mm as we're going back and forth. Now we're going to use the chart. We're at this part of the heel here. So we're coming from the foot, which is this bit, and we're doing the heel. So we have to manipulate these stitches on this side here. These do not get worked. And we manipulate these stitches to make short rows. So that when we have the heel like this and it is pointed sideways, we actually do get this bit of the heel. These are the stitches that remain unworked, and this is the bit that does the short row. So it'll pop out the heel just like it did on the toe. Just we're coming from a different angle. We're coming from this side, we're from the toe, which is started here. So this is actually part one, which is the first part of the heel. Then I marked this as part 3, but it's not, it's part 2. And I marked this as part 2, which is part 3. So I will give you the numbers that you need. I drew up the diagram of the heel just the way that we need it to form the heel. If you use the fingering weight yarn, 2.25 to 2.5 millimeter needle, you had 60 stitches to start, or 64, which we're only working over half of the stitches for the heel. It's either 30 stitches or 32 stitches. 10 stitches remain unworked, which is this narrow bit here of the heel. You will either manipulate 10 or 11 stitches on the sides here, depending on your stitch count. For sport weight socks, 2.75 to 3 millimeter needles, either 50 or 54 stitches. You either have 25 stitches for the heel or 27 stitches. 9 to 11 stitches remain unworked because it is an uneven number. Usually the uneven number resides in the middle of unworked stitches, and then because you manipulate on each side evenly, you need an even number of stitches here. It'll be either be 7 to 8 stitches, depending whether you did the 9 or 11 that don't get worked from the 25 stitches, or if you had 27 stitches, it'll be either 8 or 9 stitches that get manipulated on these sides here. If you have a heavy worsted like I do, I circled my numbers. I have 40 stitches, 20 stitches for the heel, 8 remain unworked. I'm working with a 3.75 to 4 millimeter. Mine is a 4 millimeter. I kind of circled what my numbers are. 40 stitches, which means 20 on each side. I manipulate 6 stitches on each side. 8 remain unworked, and I'm working with a 4 millimeter needle. So there you go. If you need the numbers one more time. If I did not say it before, I'm using Briggs Little Tuffy. It is 80% pure wool, 20% nylon. It is made for socks, hiking socks, or liner socks for skates, rubber boots, or hiking socks. They're made in Canada. They come out of BC. So let's talk about the heel. This is the yarn over toe. I'm using the yarn over heel for this. I'm pretty sure I came up with it as I've not seen it anywhere before. I kind of thought about it as I was doing the yarn over toes. So if you've seen it before, then clearly I didn't make it up, even though I didn't see it before, but I believe there is nothing new under the sun. So if you've seen it, or you have a better name for it, or you know a better name for it, it may be, since it came out of my brain, I did make it up for me, but maybe it's not new. So let me see if yeah, okay. So we're on row 1 here of the toe. We are in the knit side, and I don't know if you read charts before. I have numbers on the right and numbers on the left. Anytime that happens internationally, you know that it's been knitted in the flat, because on the right hand side the number means we're going this way, on the left hand side the number means we're going this way. So that means we're knitting flat. If all of the numbers are on the right hand side, that means you're knitting in the round, because you're only ever coming from this side. So we're on row 1, and we're knitting all of the stitches except for the last stitch. We're gonna ignore that. So here is my yarn tail to start off. I don't need to change this here to a 4mm needle, because this is just a holding needle, so that does not matter. So I have, yep, my tail is long enough, just in case. Okay, so I thought I mounted the stitches correctly. I guess I didn't. This is my 3rd time that I'm actually recording this, because either the doorbell rings or the kids are too loud, or I forgot to turn the fan off. So I got halfway through the heel and I ripped it back. So in the video where I picked up the right leg of the smile, that is the correct video, but here I ripped back without putting the needle in first, so I just picked them up. Oh, sorry, I'm going to turn this properly. I ignore the last stitch. However, I'm going to take my 4mm needle and I add this on here. So I knitted everything except for this last stitch here. I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to yarn over and purl back to the last stitch. So I'm going to purl the second last, but not the last. I got the stitch markers on my finger, which reminds me I was going to put stitch markers around these bits here. The stitches that don't get worked in the middle, I kind of forgot to put that on. I will do that so in a minute. So ideally you would have done that in the first row, but you can add them, it doesn't really matter. So here's my last stitch. I will not work this, but I will work my second last stitch right here and turn my work. I will now also add my stitch markers. So I wanted to add it in on the 6th stitch here, which, just to remind you, I'm manipulating 6 stitches on the side here. So I will knit six stitches here, put in the marker, work my 8 and put in another marker. So I have 1, yarn over, and I knit. That's stitch number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to add 1 marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll add the second marker in. if you had different numbers for the resting stitches in the middle, then of course put the markers around those numbers, not mine. Now I'm knitting right before the yarn over stitch, which is right here. So we are on the second one right here. I will turn my work. Okay, I got kind of muddled up, sorry. Okay. Good Lord, I only have 2 needles and 1 ball of yarn. How does that happen? So I yarn over and I purl back to my last yarn over stitch, and I'm passing the stitch markers as I get to them. They're only marking the stitches that remain unworked in the middle. You can feel free to do so on the second heel that I'm going to show you as well, where I did not show this. But again, many takes maybe make a great video. So I will knit. Here is my yarn over stitch pair. I will knit this last one here and turn my work without getting everything jumbled up. I yarn over. So now I'm on stitch number 3. 1, 2, 3. I yarn over and knit right back to the last yarned over stitch. And I do want to say that I knit with you in real time for beginners. If you have knit socks before, or if you're familiar with the method, then just put your finger on the right hand of the screen and it will speed it up for you, so that you don't have to sit through every single stitch that you may or may already know or not already know. So I got 1, 2, 3 here. I'm knitting to the last stitch before the pair. I will turn my work and yarn over and purl back to the last pair. Move the stitch markers as I get to them. I'm trying not to have my fingers cover up the knitting. However, I assume that we all know how to knit and purl. So I'm more conscious of it when we get to the parts where I need to show you something. So we got 1, 2, 3. This is the last pair. So I will knit this last one. We're at 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 1, 2, 3. This is stitch number 4. I only need to go to number 6. I will yarn over and knit back to number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be number here. And if your numbers differ, because this sheet is made up for up to fingering weight yarns, just color in where you need to stop and put down your stitch count in here so that you know where you're at. I'm just knitting to the last pair. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, this is my 5th one. I knit it right up to the last pair. I turn my work, I yarn over, and we're almost where we need to be. So as you can see, turning a heel doesn't really take very long, and it is the, besides the toe, I guess, this is the most magical bit in the whole sock knitting, because I'm always amazed that you have two sticks and a ball of yarn and you can actually make a garment that fits. And with a footboard, it'll fit every single time. 1, 2, 3, 4. This here is number 5. turn my work, yarn over, everything looks good so far. So here is number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is number 6. I will knit it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here are my pairs, except for the one that was not worked. So I only have 5 pairs and one that is not worked, which is 6. I turn my work over, I yarn over, and I purl back. Yarn over and purl. Okay. When it doesn't jump off my needle. So I will move the stitch marker. This here is my last one on the purl side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This here is number 6. I turn my work. Okay, that'll get tangled up. Yarn over. So now we're actually at number 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're here, but now I'm actually at this spot here. So I'm going to ignore the numbers in between here because I know I'm at that marker now. So we're going to pretend we're here. We don't need the stitches in between here. I'm going to knit. I'm coming from here and I'm going to knit back. And it looks like we're actually knitting in a straight row, but of course we're not. We're knitting down here because these stitches here did not get knitted. Well, yes, they don't actually exist. So I'm knitting back, resolving all of those stitches here until I get to the one that is not worked down here. So this is my last yarn over. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will move the marker, knit my 8 that do not get worked at all, or that don't get manipulated, I should say that. So now we're going to resolve these stitches, and when you look at them, you can see clearly that they are in pairs, and in between the pairs we're creating holes because we actually did nothing to minimize those holes, and this is kind of what we want. So this is a stitch with a yarn over to the left, stitch, yarn over to the left, stitch, yarn over to the left, and so forth. So we're going to knit the first stitch because there's no hole between these two. There's no hole. So I knit that stitch as if normal. We can see no hole. I'm going to use this yarn over and this stitch and knit these two together and therefore close the hole. So the stitch and the yarn over get knitted together and we close the hole. I rock my needle to remove slack. Now again I have a yarn over and I have a stitch. The yarn over is attached here. I hang on to it with my finger so I'm not accidentally knitting into it. I knit into the stitch and the yarn over, knit those two together, remove the slack, hole closed. Stitch, sorry, yarn over and stitch. I'm knitting them together, remove the slack, hole closed. Yarn over and stitch. I'm knitting them together, remove the slack, hole closed. Now I'm at my last stitch that I actually ignored. This is the stitch down here that we did nothing with. I'm going to take my yarn over and that last stitch here and I'm going to knit them together. I'm going to turn my work. Now, all of this side here has been resolved. So this line of the stitching is done. Now we're going to return. I'm going to do a yarn over here, and I'm going to return purling this row, move the stitch marker, move this stitch marker, and resolve the stitches in the same manner coming down this row here. Just like we did on that side, we're just purling it instead of knitting it together. Yarn over and purl across until we get past that second marker where the manipulated stitches sit and wait for us. So, and in this row here, I do want to remove the slack. You can see that these are the yarn over stitches because they have 2 purl bumps, and the new row that I'm knitting only has 1 purl bump. So, not important, however, it makes for a beautiful tight join, and you will see that as soon as we're done with this heel here. Now I'm slipping the second marker. Here are my manipulated stitches. Again, I have a stitch and a yarn over, stitch and a yarn over, stitch and a yarn over. So I knit I purl the first stitch because there is no hole there. As we can see, no hole. Now I'm going to purl the yarn over and my stitch together. Yarn over and the stitch, and again I'm holding on to the yarn over. Remove the slack, and that's my first hole closed. Here we have the hole, we have the yarn over and the stitch hanging on to this yarn over here, and I'm purling them together, rock my needle, and the hole is closed. I'm purling the yarn over and my stitch together. I'm again hanging on to this yarn over for a minute, and because I'm zipping those holes closed, now it'll push the extra fabric to the back of it because we're making these shortened rows connect. Yarn over and my stitch, purl them together, yarn over and my stitch, and purl them together. All of my stitches on this row here have been resolved. So it looks, when we're knitting on the paper, we're coming back from here. Now we're going the other way. So now we're actually here. We finished this first bit of the heel, and I can show that to you. Here is the first bit, which is this guy here. Now we're over here. I'll keep the sock up like this. Okay. Yarn over, don't forget that guy. And we're going to knit just past the second marker. So we're coming here and we need to manipulate just the stitch outside the second marker. First marker is here. And here is the second marker. I will knit this stitch and turn my work. So we already did the first one. I will yarn over and purl. I can now get rid of this stitch marker because I can see that my stitch is right here. Again, it's a twin stitch or double stitch or yarn over stitch. I don't really know how to call this. And I keep my tension pretty good through here because again, I want a very tight join. I'm going to leave it on for 1 more minute. I will purl this first stitch because now we're over here. I just moved the marker. I purled the first stitch. And now I'm going to yarn over and knit this. Now that it is a double stitch or a twin stitch or a yarn over stitch, I can clearly see it. I will no longer need the markers because you can see where we're going, right? So we're knitting through the stitches that just get knit or purled. They don't get manipulated. And now I'm sitting again at the double stitch. There's no hole between those two, so I know I can knit this first knit until I get to the yarn over, and this knit, we knit them together to close it. Because now we're going outwards. Before we went inwards, now we're going outwards. So we're knitting over this manipulated stitch and form the second one. So I knitted over this stitch here, and I'm closing the hole on this side. I'm turning my work, another yarn over, and I purl right to the yarn over. These cords have a mind of their own, and they're dragging everything in its orbit on the board. So and any time that you have a pattern, you can replace this or the other heel with your sock pattern, whether it's toe up or down, it actually does not matter. So now I'm at that double stitch here. I will purl the first one because I want to get at the yarn over. I need the yarn over purl together with the next stitch to close the hole. There are no yarn overs over here because we're going out. Pick up the yarn over and pick up the next stitch. We purl them together, rock the needle to remove the slack, and you can really see how it wants to puff out, and turn our work, yarn over. We're knitting to the yarn over. We're knitting over all of the knit stitches until we get to the yarn over. So here was our last one. You can see this. I'm knitting to the yarn over. Here's my yarn over and my next stitch. I want to close the hole. I knit them together. Rock my needle and I turn my work, yarn over, and I will purl to the next yarn over. I will purl all of these stitches here because we're going this way. So I'm purling to the yarn over. The yarn over is right here. I know that because I got the hole right here. I purl the yarn over and the stitch together. Rock it. Come on. How can that little ball of yarn get tangled up in here? Yarn over, knit right over to your yarn over. Okay, yarn over is right here. I can feel the hole with my hands. I knit them together, snug up the needle, yarn over and purl that loop looked a little bit big, so all you need to do is push it down. You purl to the yarn over. Here is my gap, yarn over and stitch, purl them together, rock the needle, yarn over, knit to the yarn over, and the heel really is popping out. The more I get to the other side of the heel, the more you can see that it actually is a heel, and how beautifully we turned it will be apparent in a few minutes. Here, actually here you can already see there is no hole. It looks like you have a stitch on the top and a recess stitch, same as here, but there is no hole, and I will show you that with a darning egg in a minute. Here's the yarn over and here's a stitch. Knit them together, rock your needle, turn your work, yarn over, I believe maybe we have 3 rows left, and then we're back in the round and your heel is turned. And as I mentioned earlier, you can use this heel. It doesn't matter what sock pattern you have, whether you come from the top down or from the bottom up, the heel is the same, and you can exchange that in any sock pattern if those are the sock patterns that you like. Now I only have 1 stitch left with the yarn over here, which means we're almost where we need to be to go back in the round. So yarn over and knit to that very last So this is the second time, or the third time actually, that I knitted this very same heel. So I do know it doesn't look like I have enough yarn left over, but I do, because I had already cut it. I knit this, and I have the yarn over in my last stitch left over. I will knit those two together and leave this yarn over. Yarn over again and purl to the end. So this here is my last yarn over. I will knit that together with my last knit stitch. There we go. And this here is a yarn over, which I will leave here. I'm now at the end. As you can see, my yarn is here, and I need to create one more yarn over so that I have two, the same as I have on this side. Now I'm going to push one of the yarn overs from this side onto the needle that goes to the back. Actually, sorry, I will have to do both of them. both of the yarn overs go to the needle on the back. There we go. And I have to create one yarn over here. Now I'm back at knitting in the round. So I will slide one yarn over to my needle right here. So as I knit my next stitch, I will form a yarn over here, and I will also grab this yarn over here and slide it to the back. So in this last row here, when the gray yarn comes, or your main yarn comes back together, you're sliding the two yarn overs to the back from this side and this side. So as you can see, between this yarn over here and this stitch, there are no holes. So now I'm just going to knit them, and we can count them. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. There are 20 stitches, so I'm just going to knit them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I can get rid of this needle here. We're done with it. I'll pull my magic loop formation and pull this needle out. I have 2 of my yarn overs are sitting on this needle here, and the other 2 are sitting right here. Sorry, this one. And it becomes clear when I knit this last, when I knit them together with this last one here, then you'll see that they're both yarn overs there. So, oh, here I have a hole, and I also dropped a stitch, so just give me 1 second. This is not a big deal. Okay, you can see it dropped down, this stitch here dropped down 2 ladders. I grab the stitch, I will take the next ladder, and I will just pop this over. So I'm knitting it right back up. 1, here's my next ladder, and I'll pop it up and put it back on the needle. This was my dropped stitch. So there we go. I want to close this hole, and it is right in the join. Can you see it? It is right in the join. So having 2 yarn overs will make that join really strong, and it will close that hole for good. So, and I purposely go in sideways because I don't want to stretch out these stitches here, and rock my needle. It will close the hole right here, and I knit to the other end. Oh, I didn't pop this on correctly. Oh, the whole row is off. Like I said, I knitted the heel 2 or 3 times, and then the last time I just ripped them out and then picked up the stitches. So because I had knitted a few rows past, so of course I had to pick the stitches up, and I didn't mount them correctly. I didn't put them on a smaller needle first. I just ripped back and picked up the stitches, which is not a big deal. Okay, so I'm knitting my 20 stitches here. Oh, I knew that. When I put it on, I realized I had only cut part of the yarn, so that's fine. So here's my yarn I'll put that on the needle and pop it over to fix it so that I have all of it on there. No. One more time. There we go. Now I have it all. And now so I actually said it wrong. These 2 stitches belonged on the last needle here, because this is the hole that I want to close. No. Serves me right. This last stitch here is the last stitch of the 20, and I do need to knit that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19, and 20 is right here. So as you can see, I have a hole here that needs to be closed. This is the yarn over. This here is the yarn over, the white one. And then I have a fuchsia yarn over, and here's my actual stitch. So I will knit all 3 of these together to close this hole. And like I said before, if you make a mistake or you're unsure of what needs to close, you can see that because I have the hole here. These yarn overs needed to go right with that stitch to close the hole. So here is my stitch. Okay, that got wrapped around there. I'm very sorry that I made that a bit complicated. So here is my yarn, and it's closing the holes. Okay, I will knit 2 rows beyond it, and then I will show you. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I have 21. That means that 1 stitch was also a yarn over. So the next time I'm just going to knit those 2 stitches together. That's fine. I could go back, and if that were to happen to you, then do go back if you want to. I'm not going to, because it actually makes no discernible difference. So I'm knitting the front of the sock here, and I will show you. I mean, making the odd mistakes is especially on socks, and I have to say, because I got interrupted a few times. I ended up knitting that same heel 3 times. So let's just make sure. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. That count is correct. And let's double check that back. The stitches on here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21. Well, still 21. So it didn't magically fix itself. So one of the things actually that I can do is I can just pull it over this way. Well, doesn't matter. I could, but I'll knit it together actually. So I just put both stitches on here. I'll knit it together. Now my count is again reduced to 20, and I will show you in a minute. I'll knit over this. So we have 2 rows on it. And I will get my magic darning egg. Okay, so I'm going to pull both of these out. I'm going to show you both sides. As a matter of fact, you can already see that there is no hole here. And there is really no hole here. When you go and clean that up on the inside and you knit over top of this, there will be no hole here. However, should you have, okay, so I'll pull it the way that it will be once this is closed in. Should you find that there is a hole here or more than what you would like, you take your darning needle, you thread it, and you use one or both of these. It actually does not matter. And you can see that the next stitch over here is this guy here and this here. So you would thread your needle, pull it through those 2 stitches because it is the left leg of this stitch and the right leg of this stitch, and bring it through and feed it back into that same hole. So it would actually go this way here if I would have a darning needle. I had already cleaned them up. So pretend that this is going through here and you put it back into the same hole where you came out of. It will close any hole, and then you can just go ahead and clean up these yarn tails here, and you can continue on with the shaft of the leg. Before I go to the second heel, oh, I did want to put the egg in so that you can actually see. You cannot see the egg through here, so you know that there are no holes. And it's the same over here. There are no holes. So the recess stitch is your yarn over. And again, there are no holes on this side either. So you could just go ahead and knit around. So before I go on and show you the next heel, either one is pretty easy. I think the next one is probably my favorite, just because it's so simple and easy to do. If you want to put a pattern on here, feel free to do a pattern. So very often it's just on the top of the foot and then on the circumference of the foot, of the leg I should say, but you can have it through the whole circumference of the foot, the top and the bottom if you choose so, and then again on the circumference of the leg, or you can have the bottom of the foot plain and have a pattern just on the circumference of the leg going up. That is completely up to you. That is the reason why I gave you the pattern the way that I did. Either you buy this one here for $2, or you just follow along with the knit along. That is up to you, but that is the reason why I just gave you a plain vanilla sock, so that you can fill in whatever it is that you want on your sock. So give me 1 minute to change this around, and I'll come back with heel number 2. All right, heel number 2 is the shadow wrap heel, and it's very similar to the increases we did, the lifted increases in the toe. If we're following the chart, we are on row 1. We're knitting right to that second last stitch, and we're shadowing that stitch. For to make it easy, I will move the 2 heel needles onto one needle. So we're knitting right, give myself a bit of a tail here, right to the end of needle 1. And normally I wouldn't knit quite like this with a DPNs, but I don't have a lot of space between the camera angle and the sock. So there we go. We're at the last 2 stitches, and instead of lifting that bar, I just knit into the stitch below and bring up this stitch. So you can see that I have 2 stitches sitting here. They come out of the first stitch, and I will leave it on this needle here and turn my work. Actually, let me see if I can lift this a little bit, just to give myself a little bit more space down here as I'm working with the DPNs. Okay, this is going this way. So I have lifted this guy. I thought I did something strange. Okay, so I have my last stitch that did not get worked. This is the first twin stitch, and I'm purling back to the second last stitch. I assume we all know how to knit and purl. So my fingers tend to cover up the knitting because I use them to hold and push the stitch. So I don't really need to see, as I can feel where my stitches are. My middle finger always pushes the stitch to be knitted forward and presents it for me. So third last, now we're on the second last stitch. I will just purl into the bottom of that stitch and pull that up and sit it on my left hand needle. Turn my work. Knit to the stitch before the twinned or the shadowed stitch. And you know why they call it the twin stitch or the shadow stitches, because they just sit together on the needle coming out of the same stitch. Got a bit more going on with the DPNs here. And this is the last stitch. We didn't touch that guy, same as in the other heel. This is the second last stitch. We twinned him, and you can see the 2 colors here. Now I'm at the third stitch, which is 1, 2. This is the third stitch, but we didn't touch them. So 1, 2, we're in here. Knit into the bottom of that stitch. So here's the collar where that stitch comes out of. We're knitting into the bottom and pulling up a yarn loop and sitting it right next to this stitch on here. Turn the work. It's already sitting on the left hand needle, so we're all set up to just purl back until we get to the twin stitch, which is over here. As we're going left to right, the rows are left to right. It is always like that internationally if you knit back and forth. On the charts, you have one row, the right row facing you, going this way, the purl row or the backside row coming from this side going this way. They're always written that way if you know how to read patterns. So you know that when you see the numbers on either side, you know that it's knitted flat and not in the round. If it's knitted in the round, all of your numbers are over here because you only ever come from this side. Okay, so I purled to The last stitch didn't get touched. This stitch here is twinned. This is my stitch 2 twin. So here you can see it, it's very easy under that collar. I go under that collar, purl, pull up my yarn and sit it on the needle and tighten it. It's already on this right hand side needle, so I don't need to do anything special here. I don't need to move it at all. We're knitting to the twin stitch. You know, on either side of the socks, what you can do, you can use stitch markers. You can count out your 8 stitches in the middle, or 10 or 11, whatever, the stitches that do not get twinned or that don't get a yarn over, and you can put markers on either side of the stitches in the middle that do not get worked. So 1, 2, 3, we're on number 4. So in order to see it easy, you can see I use my left thumbnail and I just push it out because it really highlights where I need to go. I go right in here under the collar, and I bring out I pick up my yarn loop and I sit it on the left hand side needle. I remove the slack and I turn my work. So I already have 1, 2, 3, 4. I only need to go to 6. Excuse me. I'm not too concerned about showing you the knitting and the purling, as I assume you already know this. So here's 1, 2, 3. This is my 4th stitch to be twinned. Again, you can pull on it a little bit so that you can see where you're going. I'm twinning this under the collar, pulling up the loop and sitting it right onto the needle. Okay, turn my work. They're already sitting on here. Again, knit. To the last twin stitch. Which is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I push it out a little bit so that I can see. It really makes it more visible. Of course, if you don't push it off right all together, you can pull on it on the bottom a bit if you would like. I pulled up the loop and I sit it on my needle, remove the slack, turn the work. Purl back to the last twin stitch. Got a scratchy throat all of a sudden there for a minute. One more. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see the twin stitches quite well. So again, I bring the yarn forward. I can see I need to go in here. It's under the collar there. So I'll do my purl, pull up the loop, sit it on here, remove the slack, turn the work. It's already sitting on the proper needle, and I just keep on knitting back and forth until I have 6 on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the last time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's number 6. I'll push it out a little bit so that you can see as well. You can see right the hole under there. I will pull up the yarn, sit it on the left hand needle, remove the slack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you needed to have a stitch marker here, now is a good time to pop it on. I turn my work and I'll purl back to number 6 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is number 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, on the purl side, you can see the collar really well. We go under that purl bump or collar and pick up the new stitch, tighten it, and now if you have a second stitch marker, you can put it on this side here. I have nice fluorescent ones so you can see them easy. You can do that on the other sock as well. Here's my stitches in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They are these stitches that do not get knitted here. And now I was over here, I'm knitting all the way to the end and knitting the, I'm resolving the double stitches or the twin stitches by knitting them together. I will knit them together, remove the slack, knit them together, remove the slack, knit them together, sorry, got there, remove the slack, knit it together, remove the slack, knit it together, remove the slack, and now I'm going, this is the last stitch, we will twin that, or shadow, or whatever you would like to call it. Remove the slack, turn my work. I'm going to purl back, moving the markers as I go along. 1, 2, rock your needle to remove the slack. The purls usually have more slack in it than the knits. So for sure on the purl row, I'm just moving the marker as I get to them. I remove the slack as I purl them. These are just regular purls. Those were the stitches that are not twinned or knitted. They are right at the narrow part of your heel. Move the marker, and again we resolve the twinned or shadow stitches by knitting them together. Knit, purl them together, purl, 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 and this is our very first stitch that did not get twinned or anything, and I will twin it now. So I'm just taking this little tail here and I'm hanging it over here so I can hang on to it, and I can see that I need to go into here, and I will twin it now. I have 2 stitches on here. I will turn my work. We're again here. We just resolved all of these stitches here, and we're at the first increase out when you look at the chart. So I'm coming from here and I'm knitting right to that second marker. Not the first marker, but marker number 2. And you can already see how clean this join here looks. There are no holes. The stitches look in a beautiful formation, same as the yarn over stitches. I can remove this marker here because now, again, you can see the stitch that I need to twin up. The stitch below it was our double stitch when we resolved it, but I want the row right below it. I will twin that stitch, sit it on the left hand needle, and turn my work. Purl to the marker. We're right in this formation here and building in here, and we're building the stitches back out. So I'm at the second marker. I can pull that off now because I'm going to twin this row. I go right into the, and if you can't see it, just use your needle to feel right below the purl bump. I will purl twin this, remove the slack, turn my needles, and knit to the twin stitch. I'm resolving this twin stitch by knitting it together and twinning the next one, turning my work, and purling to the last twinned stitch. I will purl it together. Okay, here we are. I will purl this twin stitch here together. Remove the slack. Purl my next stitch, twin it, go into the stitch below it, turn my work, knit, as you can see, the heel is forming. It is right here. It's not popped out all the way yet, but it will be in a minute. I'll resolve these twin stitches here by knitting them together. I shadow knit or a twin knit this next stitch here, sit it on the left needle, remove the slack, it's already on the proper needle, purl back to the last twin stitch. Out of the two heels that I showed you, I prefer this heel, just simply because it's easier. Oops, this wants to stick in my bandage. I'll purl, I resolve it by purling this stitch here together and go right into, I can pull it down a little bit so I can see. And you can see the stitch below has two yarn threads from your purling it together. This one has two, and this one here only has one just yet. Turn it. We remove the slack and knitting over. Turning a heel, is that not the coolest thing? I think knitting is, or crochet, it doesn't really matter. It's just the coolest thing. You either have one hook and two and your yarn, or you have two needles and your yarn. I think that is just the coolest thing, and you're creating something, if you're lucky and you did the prior work, it'll fit perfectly. And I have to tell you, with the footboards, the socks will fit properly every single time. You can use a cereal box or whichever you want to use. It is in two videos prior. The last video was the toe, and the one before that is the preparation for the KAL. As you can see, I purled that I purled that stitch together, and here you have your double collar. That's not the one I want to knit into. I want to knit in under the single collar and purl it, sit it on here, remove the slack, turn it around, and you can really feel that heel. You can see it sticking out. It is a heel. By the time you get to this first bit here, you already know that it's a heel. I think it's just wonderful. I don't know who came up with it first. I do know that knitting's been around for a long time. And you know, if you have to think about it, when you watch those medieval movies where they had these tight little pants on, and the pants ended just below the knee for the men, and for the men, the ladies had the big gowns on. Can you imagine having to knit those by hand, teeny tiny needles, and just get a tiny, I'm pretty sure they did not get fair wages back then. And very often they would have to hound these barons or whoever to get their money or to get paid. And here we can knit for luxury in any yarn we would like, and any thickness. I knit my fingering socks with 2.25 millimeters, but it does not produce, I'm resolving the double stitch, it doesn't produce the fine gauge that they did way back when, and it was all hand knitted. Again, I'll twin purl the stitch, turn my work, and I think it just bumped into the camera. Okay, and we're already again at the end of this heel, so it did not take long at all. I'm at 23 minutes here, and I did a bit of yakking and bumping the camera, etc. So if you're not doing any of those things, you're faster. So I did resolve this second last stitch. Now I'm at the last, very last stitch. So I resolved my resolved my twin stitch, and now I'm going to triple this stitch here. I have two in it, and you can see it really well with the two colors. I'm going to go into this stitch one more time. I might have to fold it out a little bit. Oh, come on. Hang on to it. Oh, I see. I wasn't really under it. There we go. I'll pull it up and I'll sit it on here. So this now has 3 loops in this one hole, and that's actually your joint, and it stops the hole from forming. This is probably what I liked about these two methods the best. There are no holes on the side. The yarn over method sometimes creates a little bit of a hole on the right hand side of the join, not on the left hand but on the right hand. The more you do it, the better you get. You might not have any holes in there, but this method here, no holes at any side of the joints. So I'm here, I'm resolving the double stitch. This is the second last stitch. There's already a twin in here, and we did the twin when we came from the middle, when we stopped the decrease before we went into the increase. We twinned this stitch here, so now we're going to triple it. Get in there. Yeah, I'm in, and I'm tripling it, setting it on here, and this is basically it. I'm sitting all 3 stitches onto my needle here. And we're done with color B, the contrasting color. I can cut this off. I hang out my tails, and I'm bringing my back yarn forward. I'm back into, I'm going to count the 10 and then do 10 again. I'm using my needle. I hang on to these tails because I don't want them hanging out, like spinning while I'm knitting. Okay, this is 1. I'm resolving them by knitting them, all 3 of them together. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1. Bend it back a little bit here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Again, I have 3 in here, and I don't want to stretch them out too much, even though I might have to loosen them a little bit to get in there. Kind of the wrong angle. 10. Here we go. And this is the first round on the top of the foot. And let me show you the magic with my little egg there. Now I grab the, I'm going on the outside because I'm doing this concurrently as I'm showing you, but normally I would not knit the outside of the ball first. I would knit the sock that has the yarn coming from the feeding from the inside of the ball, so nothing twirls and turns, because that can drive me a little bit crazy. So we're here, and I will knit 1 needle past this here, just so that I can show you how beautiful this join really is. We're at 8 minutes and 7 or 8 seconds here, and for this heel, so let's have a look. Okay. Here is my egg. Let's do the check. All right. Join number 1. Look how beautiful that is. No holes, no anything. This is the heel. Look how beautiful and flat that lies. You can't really feel that triple stitch in here, and it really covers up that hole beautifully well. This is the left side of the heel itself, the join. And let me see if I can, here is the join. Again, no holes in here whatsoever. So I wonder what your favorite heel is, whether it is the yarn over or whether it is the twin or shadow heel. The next part is knitting the leg. I don't like super long socks, but if you need to have a guideline, very often the leg itself is between 6 and 8 inches, and then you can add the border is usually, or the ribbing is usually 2 inches. You can stripe the sock before you get to that. You can add a pattern now if you would like to, and have the foot plain. Quite a few socks are like that. See what you can come up with. I would love to see your socks posted. I will see. Maybe I'll do the modern sock KAL as one word on Instagram, and you can show me your socks. I would love to see them. You can upload them into the pattern page of this sock, whether you have bought the pattern or just knitted along with me here, that is up to you. I'll drop the coupon code back into this video here as well. Don't forget to like and comment to be entered into the draw for a free pattern. And I really hope you like it. Let me know which heel you like best. And I will see you on Saturday to go over the two elastic cast off methods that I use. Everybody is familiar with the regular cast off methods. I'm not going to be showing you those. If you have really narrow legs, or if your regular cast off method is usually not an issue for you, then go ahead and use that. But I want to show you two elastic ones, because very often the problem with the toe-up socks is that you can't get it over this bit of the heel. Just as from the toe down, people don't like the Kitchener. The toe up has a little bit of a thingy where people can't get it over this bit, because they need to get the foot in. It needs to be elastic enough at the top. So let me know what you think. Again, this is Evelyn of the Modern Needle. Give me a like and comment and subscribe if you like my way of doing things. And I will see you on Saturday. Have a great week. Happy knitting.